Okay, you can use the down button on the keyboard.
So I didn't grow up thinking I was going to be an entrepreneur. I had other plans. I wanted to be a physiotherapist. That didn't work out. My parents sent me to England to study geographic information systems. That had absolutely nothing to do with being in medicine. That didn't work out, as you can see. Diamo, our son, was born in 2003. He had cerebral palsy, and basically with his cerebral, it was medical negligence. So what it affected him in several ways. He couldn't sit up, he was quadriplegic, he had reflux, his spine had scoliosis, so basically he needed to use quite a lot of orthotics to keep him in a very good posture. Things like hand splints, back braces, AFLs. He didn't use a CAFO because he didn't walk, or he was in a wheelchair. But what these meant was it kept him in a very good posture, that he would not need to have surgery, or if he would need to have surgery in the future, it would keep him in a good posture long enough until he's at a good age to have surgery more successfully. I chose to be a stay-home mom because having a disabled child was very, very challenging. I couldn't actually go to work, and even when I did do part-time jobs, the maths didn't add up. By the time I had to go to work, I had to wait for him to be at school for me to leave the house, and then I had to be back in the house before he came back from school. So the time limit was very, very short. I had so many appointments that I had to take time off work once or twice every 2 weeks. I had to, on top of the other appointments where his orthosis did not fit him. So it was one appointment on top of another. You tell that to your boss and he doesn't like you very much because you're away more than you're in. So eventually I just decided, you know what, it's not even worth it. I'm quite happy to stay at home and just be a full-time carer, and that's what I did. Life has, well, the dragonfly has become my symbol. It teaches me that life is too short and it changes very, very unexpectedly. Diamo passed away in 2012 due to his medical condition. And after waking up from the grief and everything, you start to realize everything I've done and all of my experiences revolved around looking after him and caring for him. And I spent 9 years doing that. All my skills that I had developed coming out of university, I did geographic information systems. So I basically read satellite images, drew maps, did surveying, was no longer valuable for me because that train has passed. If you had not used those skills, they just disappear. Plus then Google Maps came along and my degree became obsolete, but that's another story. So learning that all the skills that I have become basically obsolete because the one person that I used my skills on, it was not there anymore. Going through grief counselling, that came up as an issue, and basically she was really good and she said to me, well, you do have really, really good skills, so why don't you channel those skills and just build on top of them? I was quite good as a physiotherapist for him, I was very good as an OT for him. In fact, I gave the training to the people with the degrees. I was very good as a speech and language therapist as well. They wrote a manual for him that I actually provided and then distributed and gave it to me as if they freaked me, but anyway. And she said to me, why don't you go back to university and get a degree in what you really wanted to do, which was again back to becoming a physiotherapist or an OT. And I thought it'd be great if I could combine those two studies, because not every OT is a physiotherapist or vice versa. But if I've got both of these degrees, it'd really, really be good. And I could do something useful with my life. It's my passion, I'm good at it. So I applied to 2 universities in London and I got rejected. They didn't tell me why. Apparently being a carer for 9 years and having the hands-on experience was not good enough to put in the credits. I was very pissed off. But I thought, okay, I'm going to try and find another direction. So I was still thinking about it, still very, very angry about the university. In the meantime, my husband Naveed was invited to a tech conference. He's not a techie guy, he has lots of friends who are techs, and they lured him into this one called Monkey Gra because they were serving quite a lot of food, a lot of drinks, a lot of cigars, and he thought, yeah, I'll go. And he, oh gosh, you were and he went there, and it was really, really interesting. A guy called Chris Thorpe, that you might want to thank him for the invention of washing monsters, was talking about his passion about 3D scanning and old steam trains, old war vehicles, and using them as educational tools for children. And the light bulb moment happened when Chris talked about him 3D scanning a Welsh steam train and 3D printing a 1-to-1 scale of a broken latch on that train, but in metal. And the idea just happened. Like, why, if you can do that on objects, why can't you do that for disabled children's equipment? Like wheelchairs, like standing frames, like the orthotics. And that's when Project Andiamo was born, literally in that moment. We thought, okay, we needed to do a bit more research because it's such an obvious idea. Somebody is obviously doing it. We went to the USA, they had the 3D conference, and it's quite massive, it's global, they have it all over the world, USA, Europe, and we went there, and none of them were actually thinking about using this technology for bettering healthcare. Apart from a few, it would be around breast reconstructions or for insults, but not in the scale that we were thinking of. Majority of it was used for apparels, like how will your dress flow by using 3D imaging to check if it fits you properly or not. And we were like, well, I'm sure we can use it better in medical and it would benefit more people globally. So, to tell you more about how you get these orthotics, you have plaster of Paris of way of measurements. You need to pin down the child for about 10 to 15 minutes while you get the mold, and that's your measurements. This is sent away for production. It's still done by very, very good artistic men, and they are quite skillful. They are in their aprons, chisels and hammers in their factories, chiseling away one item at a time to produce for one child, for one limb. It's a manual process, it takes a long time. Sometimes it takes up to 28 weeks to receive one item, by which time the child has outgrown the item before they've even got it. So, and the solution was, why don't you 3D scan? Because all you're doing is you're taking measurements. From that, you can use the technology of 3D printing and bring it in a whole new level where you can utilize how 3D print works. So you can make it lighter, you can make it breathable, you can even make it washable in a dishwasher, because my son wore a back brace, and as soon as you put it on day one of him getting it, he threw up all over it, he had reflux. And then that stain stayed there until he grew out of the back brace, and he had to wear it through the summer, he had to wear it through the winter, you could not have changed it. So you were stuck with that one object, and that was it. So we were very, very careful that we were not throwing up all over it, which didn't work all the time. It's not like there isn't money in the industry. The size of the problem is humongous. You have 2 million users going through the NHS, and they are supported or looked after by 400 orthotists in England. And these orthotists are retiring faster than they're being hired, so demand is going up, capacity is coming down. And it's increasing by 4 to 6% because obesity is getting higher, diabetes is getting higher, people are actually living longer because we're so advanced in medicine, and people with chronic diseases are surviving longer. So them needing to use an orthotic for whatever reason it is getting higher, but then they're not getting it as quick enough, and you've got very, very few people trying to accommodate them, which makes it look like this. So you might have to wait half a year to get a back brace. And for an adult, they might have to wait a year or even longer just to get a back brace. And Diamo can do that in 48 hours, utilizing 3D scanning and printing. We want to turn this whole system of its head. It's not just about using technology, it's how do you use it the best way that you can by changing the whole service. So you completely take the rug off their feet and completely change from end to end. This is what it would look like when you start doing things out of the box. The football back brace belonged to our son, and that's what he had. He didn't even wear it that long because it didn't actually fit him by the time he got it. And we had to wait, at the time, we had to wait about 13 weeks for him to get it. The back brace beside it was done within 48 hours, and if I'm quite truthful about it, it was actually done in less. The printing actually was done in about 12 hours. The scanning took about 40 seconds. The actual CAD work took about a day, only because the person who actually did the CAD work had another job that actually paid him, you know, wages, and he was doing this as a favour, and he produced it within a day for us whilst he was on holiday, and we printed it in like 12 hours. So the look is different. I can actually wash it, it's breathable. I could wear it in any way I want it, so either as a fashion statement, or if I don't want people to know that I've got a back brace, it can go underneath my clothes and you wouldn't even know that I've got it. Our team is growing in Andiamo, so we were a team of 3, myself, my husband Naveed, who have, well, we know the problem inside out, and our CTO Lee, who will be dealing with the well, Lee is, oh God, I can't remember what does Lee do? Apart from making very, very good cocktails.
he designs and delivers all our big technology.
Thank you, that's what he does. Data and tech, which obviously I'm not very good with. But, and we've got our new members, Rosie Gonzalez, Business Development, so she promised to take us into the next level. Where we are at the moment is we're designing the service with the families for 2 years, producing orthotics for them from end to end, and then going, looking for, hoping that we'll be investor ready in 2 years. We have a great clinical team from pediatric orthopedic surgeons, rehabilitation lead. Debbie Trigg was actually our son's physiotherapist, and I've never met anyone as amazing as her, so we banter in. And biomechanical orthotic expert. I'm so happy that he decided to come and join us. We've got advisory board from design, UX, analyst, 3D scanning, and pediatric and childcare advisors. We have a big team. We are ready to go. We've got all the ingredients. All we're waiting for is actually money to actually pay people to do this stuff. We've just finished we closed our crowdfunding campaign that finished successfully, no thanks to PayPal. And we're ready to go for our next steps. What I want to leave you with is a few other examples of engineers who had made really, really good advances in medical. You've got Jorge, I think, if my pronunciation is not deceiving me, Jorge Odon, who one day, watching a YouTube video of how to remove a cork from a bottle, wakes up in the middle of the night saying to his wife, I know how to help women deliver babies safely from it. And he was an engineer, and he was an inventor as well. But he had an idea in his head. He did the trials and went to the right people and got the right support, and now his invention will be saving quite a lot of women, especially in the less developed world. You have Tal Goldsworthy, if my pronunciation is not deceiving me again, I'm not really, really bad with name, and he's a British engineer, and basically he had a problem with his, what I call tube system between his heart and the rest of his body. I can't remember the name of the medical technical name, but basically what was happening is it was bulging up and it would have erupted. So he thought to himself, if I'm in the garden and the pipe hose is bulging up, all I do is I get a sellotape and I wrap it around it, and that fixes the problem. So why can't they do that with my heart? And he made an invention called the Galsworthy device, and that passed its test. He's been doing it for about 10 years now. It's only just come out on the market. He was the first patient to actually try it on. If he had not tried it on, he would have gone surgery and medication for the rest of his life. And a little idea that sparked in his head, just looking around his environment, opening up his eyes, and not just because he was an engineer, but he wasn't a medical student. So that did not mean that he wasn't qualified to make an informed decision. He worked with the appropriate people that helped him out, and he managed to get his invention on the market. Einstein says imagination is more important than education. So I'm going to leave you with that. Open up your mind, and the skies is yours. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thanks so much, Samiya. Before I want to kind of sneak a question in. We're the sort of next generation of doctors, and essentially what you've done is you've just spotted a problem and you've innovated. What would sort of be your advice to the room as we're going to go through and seeing problems? You sort of seem to have done things outside of the system. How do you kind of, what advice would you give to us to kind of move forward if we see problems that exist and we want to kind of innovate?
So very, very recently we were talking to one of our good friends, and he's a GP. And he said to us, in his circle of medical friends, they're intelligent people, they're super smart, but you put them in a box of a hospital and their brain just closes up. I've got a file, I've got a sheet, and I need to do this and I need to do that. They stop seeing a person, and all they see is sheets of paper that they need to go through. You take them out of that environment and they just open up again, and you have very, very clever, innovative conversation with them. So what is the problem here? It's not the person, it's where you are and how you see your environment and how you interact with it. A suggestion would be, go out more into tech conferences, talk to designers, talk to shoe designers. Our back brace was actually designed by a shoe designer. Talk to engineers, go to mingle with people who are not the same as you, because that's where you learn. And there are solutions out there for your problems, but you're probably not seeing it because you're seeing it from one angle and you just want to see it from a different angle. So that could be a way.
We're just going to have one burning question, if anyone's got a burning question, before we hand over to Jack for his last talk. Otherwise we'll save everything to... Yes, Samiya.
What did you find the hardest about the whole process of going from ideas to something that's not out in the market? Sorry, what did you find hardest about the whole process?
Going into it as an entrepreneur, or taking it
from, you know, being a stay-at-home mom to now having this whole company yourself?
very, very well. Naveed had to convince me, first of all, that it was an idea that we should be taking on, because to me it was like, well, I'm pretty sure that there are people with massive certificates out there that could be doing that, 3D scanners, 3D printers, doctors. Why would anybody want to listen to parents? But then I remembered, because I shout quite a lot, that's probably why they would want to listen to me. So problem number one was myself, actually believing that I could do it and actually I could bring it out there. Number two is actually the system itself, because again, we are not doctors. We are two parents who are very, very pissed off about a system and wanted to change it. But the way to go about it is collaborating, because you will find people out there that are just as frustrated as you are. It's just a matter of finding them, talking to them, getting a solution between you and them, and just taking it forward from there.
Thanks very much. We'll save the rest of the questions for all the panel at the end, if that's right. But thanks very much, Samiya.